I woke up to the same message again. 3 simple words written on the notepad beside my bed. Don't trust him. My hands trembled as I stared at the handwriting, because it wasn't anyone else's. It was mine. Every morning, the same message appeared in my own messy script, written with the same black pen I kept on my bedside table. I would tear the note, throw it away, promise myself not to think about it again. But the next morning, it was there. Again. I wasn't crazy. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. My name is Claire, and until a few weeks ago, my life was almost perfect. I had a loving fiancé, Ethan, a quiet house in the countryside, and a wedding just 2 months away. Everything was supposed to be simple. But then, the notes began. At first, I thought it was some kind of prank or stress-induced sleepwalking. Maybe I was just overwhelmed with the wedding plans. But when I tried to stay awake one night to catch myself in the act, something strange happened. I woke up anyway, with the pen still in my hand, and a new message written. He's lying to you. My blood ran cold. Ethan laughed when I told him. Babe, you've been working too hard, he said, kissing my forehead. You need rest. But the way he avoided my eyes made my stomach twist. I started noticing little things: a locked drawer in his study, calls he took outside, and how he flinched whenever I mentioned the wedding guest list. The messages became more specific. One morning, it said, check the red box. But I didn't own a red box. At least I didn't think I did. That night, while Ethan was out, I searched the entire house, every corner, every shelf, until I found it hidden under the loose floorboard in his office. It was old, scratched, and locked. My heart hammered as I tried to pry it open, but before I could, I heard his car pulling into the driveway. I panicked, shoved the box back, and ran to my room. That night, I barely slept. And when I woke up, the next morning, the message was there again, only this time, it said something new. He knows you found it. My entire body went numb when I read those words. He knows you found it. I stared at the message, heart pounding so violently I could feel it echo in my ears. How could he know? I hadn't told a soul, hadn't left any sign of what I'd done. The handwriting looked even more frantic this time, like I had written it in the middle of a panic attack. My fingers trembled as I crumpled the note and shoved it in the drawer. When Ethan came into the kitchen that morning, I could barely look at him. He smiled like nothing was wrong, asking if I wanted pancakes or coffee. But there was something different in his tone, too cheerful, too careful. I watched him pour the coffee, my mind screaming with suspicion. Did he plant the box? Was this all a twisted game? I tried to act normal, but I couldn't stop my voice from shaking when I asked, Ethan, do you ever feel like someone's watching us? He froze for a second before forcing a laugh. You've been reading too many mystery novels, Claire. Then he kissed my cheek, his lips cold against my skin, and walked out the door for work. The second he left, I locked every window and went straight to his office again. The red box was still there, but this time I noticed something else: tiny scratches around the lock, like it had been opened and closed recently. I found a small paper clip and twisted it until it snapped inside the keyhole, forcing it open. Inside were photos, dozens of them, of me, sleeping, cooking, walking to the store. Some of them from angles I couldn't understand, high up, far away, like from a hidden camera. My stomach turned when I saw the most recent photo standing in front of the closet last night, right before I found the box. My hands went cold. That's when I heard the front door creak open. He wasn't supposed to be home yet. I froze, clutching the box. "Claire?" Ethan's voice called, soft but slow, almost testing. I didn't answer. My eyes darted to the window, calculating if I could escape. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "You weren't supposed to find that yet." I didn't breathe. I didn't move. His footsteps echoed down the hallway, steady and calm, as if he already knew exactly where I was. My hands shook so violently that the photos slipped from my fingers and scattered across the floor. I backed away, staring at the door, praying he wouldn't notice the open box. "Ethan," I said, forcing my voice to sound steady. "You're scaring me." He appeared in the doorway, his expression unreadable, his blue eyes glinting with something that looked like amusement. "You shouldn't have gone through my things," he said quietly. "You've made this so much harder than it needed to be." My heart pounded as I took a step back. What is all this? Why do you have pictures of me? What's going on? He smiled, tilting his head. "You told me to, remember?" His words hit me like a slap. "What are you talking about?" I whispered, clutching the edge of the desk for balance. Ethan took another step forward, his voice low and calm, almost affectionate. "You said you wanted to feel safe. You said you didn't trust yourself at night. You asked me to watch you, Claire, to make sure you didn't hurt yourself again." My knees nearly gave out. "That's a lie," I stammered. "I never said that." He shrugged. "You did. Maybe you don't remember." He crouched, picking up one of the photos and holding it up to the light. "You've been acting strange for weeks, writing yourself messages, talking in your sleep, screaming my name like I'm the one haunting you." My pulse roared in my ears. "Stop it, you're lying," I screamed. His face hardened instantly, the gentle mask dropping. "You don't get to call me a liar," he hissed. "Not after everything I've done for you." His words cut deep, filled with venom I had never heard before. Then, as if realizing he'd said too much, he smiled again. "Maybe it's best if you rest. I'll call Dr. Patel. You need your medication adjusted." That's when I realized he wasn't trying to comfort me. He was controlling me. Every word, every note, every photo it was part of something bigger. I ran past him, out of the room, his voice echoing after me. "Claire, come back. You're not safe out there." And for the first time, I believed him, but not for the reason he thought. I ran barefoot into the cold morning air, the gravel biting into my feet. But I didn't care. I just needed to get away from him, from that house, from whatever madness had taken over my life. The world outside looked normal. The sun rising behind the trees, birds chirping, but everything inside me felt broken. My mind was racing. He said I'd asked him to watch me, that I'd written the notes, that I was the one losing control. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I'd never had memory issues, never taken medication, never seen a doctor named Patel. Yet he spoke with such calm certainty, as if he was reciting a story he'd told 100 times before. I ran until my lungs burned and finally stopped near the old gas station on the edge of town. The cashier, an older man named Carl who'd known me for years, looked up in shock when he saw me. "Claire, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." My voice trembled as I said, "I think someone's been watching me. My fiancé, he's hiding things." Carl frowned. "Ethan? He's been coming here a lot lately. Buying those little disposable cameras. Said he was planning something special for you." My heart nearly stopped. Cameras. So it was him. I told Carl I needed to use the phone and dialed my best friend, Maya, the only person I trusted. When she answered, I could barely speak. "Maya, please, I need your help. Something's wrong with Ethan. He's been following me, taking pictures." I stopped mid-sentence when I saw a familiar black car pull up across the street. Ethan's car. He stepped out slowly, scanning the area, holding something in his hand, my phone. My stomach dropped. "He tracked me," I whispered. Carl noticed too. "You want me to call the cops?" he asked, grabbing the phone. But before he could, Ethan spotted me. He smiled like nothing was wrong and waved for me to come over. "Claire, please, you're scaring everyone," he said, his voice smooth and calm like he was talking to a frightened child. I stepped back, shaking my head. "Don't come any closer," I shouted. But he didn't stop. And in that moment, I realized if I didn't do something fast, I might never get another chance to run again. Carl stepped in front of me, his weathered hands gripping the counter like a barrier between us and Ethan. "You need to leave, son," he said firmly. But Ethan's smile never wavered. "She's not well," he said softly, looking at me like I was a fragile creature. "She's confused, having another episode. Please, Claire, come home. You forgot your medicine again." His tone was calm, convincing, too convincing. Carl looked uncertain, glancing between us, and I realized how easily Ethan could make me look unstable. He was manipulating everyone, weaving lies so tight they sounded like truth. "Don't listen to him," I said, my voice breaking. "He's lying. He's been spying on me. He's dangerous." Ethan sighed, shaking his head sadly like a disappointed father. "You see, this is what I've been dealing with," he said to Carl. "She's paranoid. She doesn't sleep. She writes notes to herself. It's heartbreaking." The way he said it, gentle, controlled, almost loving, made me want to scream. He was performing, acting like the perfect fiancé while making me look insane. "I can prove it," I yelled, fumbling through my pockets. "I found the pictures, the red box." My voice faltered. I'd left it behind. All the proof was still in the house. Ethan's eyes softened with fake pity. "Come home, Claire, please, you need rest." I stepped back, tears burning my eyes. "Stay away from me," I whispered. He took a slow step forward. Carl raised his phone to call the police, but Ethan's tone changed in an instant, sharp and cold. "Don't," he warned, his calm mask cracking for just a second. That single word told me everything. I wasn't crazy. His eyes flashed with something dark before he forced a smile again. "Fine," he said quietly. "If you won't come home, I'll let them take care of you." Then he turned and walked back to his car, leaving me shaking. I didn't understand what he meant until I heard the sirens minutes later. 2 police cars pulled up, and before I could speak, one officer grabbed my wrist gently. "Miss Claire Harlow?" he asked. "Your fiancé called. He said you might be having a mental breakdown." My heart shattered. Ethan had planned this. Every message, every move, every lead was all leading to this moment, where no one would believe me. The flashing blue lights painted the pavement as the officers gently guided me toward their car. I tried to explain, my words tumbling over each other in desperation. "Please, you don't understand. He's manipulating you. He's been spying on me. There are photos in the house hidden under the floorboard." But the younger officer exchanged a glance with his partner and said calmly, "Ma'am, we're just here to make sure you're safe. Your fiancé said you've been under stress." That word safe sounded like a cruel joke. I could see Ethan standing a few feet away, arms crossed, face filled with mock concern. "I'm not going anywhere with him," I cried, pulling my arm away. The officer sighed. Then we'll need you to come with us for an evaluation. Just to talk. I looked at Carl, who had been watching helplessly. Carl, please tell them. I begged. You saw him. You saw how he followed me. Carl hesitated, torn between doubt and fear. I don't know, Claire. Maybe it's best if you get checked out, just for a night. My knees nearly gave out. I wanted to scream, but no one would listen. Ethan approached, placing a hand over his heart like a hero in a tragedy. Thank you, officers. She just needs rest. She hasn't been herself. His words dripped with rehearsed compassion. As they opened the back door of the police car, I caught my reflection in the window-wide eyes, tangled hair, shaking hands. I looked exactly how he wanted me to look, unstable. I forced myself to breathe. If I went with them quietly, maybe I could find a way out later. I nodded weakly, pretending to give up. Okay, I whispered. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. Good girl, he said, smiling. We'll get you home soon. I felt my stomach twist with disgust. I turned my head away, biting my tongue to stop the tears. As the car pulled away, I glanced back through the window. Ethan stood there watching, that same calm smile on his face. But for a brief second, I saw something flicker behind his eyes. Fear. He wasn't calm. He was worried, because he knew I'd seen too much. And if I ever got out, I'd make sure the truth destroyed him. The ride to the hospital felt endless. The air inside the car was thick with silence, the kind that presses against your chest and makes breathing feel like work. I kept my eyes on the road ahead, memorizing every turn, every street sign, because I didn't know if I'd ever see the outside world again. When we arrived, the officers handed me over to a nurse who spoke gently, as if I were made of glass. It's all right, Claire. We just want to make sure you're okay. Her words sounded kind, but her eyes said she didn't believe me either. They took my phone, my shoes, even my notebook. I asked to make one call, but they said it could wait until morning. I sat on the narrow hospital bed, staring at the white walls. Everything smelled like disinfectant and loneliness. I wanted to scream, but instead I whispered to myself, You're not crazy. You know what you saw. The lights dimmed, and I tried to rest, but my mind wouldn't stop spinning. Then, sometime after midnight, I heard footsteps in the hallway, slow, measured steps, coming closer. My pulse spiked. The handle on the door turned, and I sat up straight. A tall figure stepped in wearing a lab coat. My heart nearly stopped when I saw his face. Ethan. Hello, Claire, he said softly, closing the door behind him. You didn't think I'd leave you here alone, did you? I froze, staring at the badge pinned to his coat. Doctor. Ethan Keller, Psychiatry Department. My throat went dry. You work here? He smiled faintly. Of course I do. How do you think we met, remember? You were my patient first. I shook my head violently. That's not true. We met at the cafe near the lake. His expression didn't change. Is that what you remember? Interesting. He walked closer, the fluorescent light reflecting off the metal in his pocket a syringe. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. You're lying, I whispered. Stay away from me. He sighed as if disappointed. You're making this harder than it has to be. Just relax, Claire. After this, you won't have to remember any of it. I screamed, lunging for the panic button on the wall, but his hand moved faster, covering my mouth. Shh, he whispered. You always fight before the truth fades. His grip was iron, his hand pressing against my mouth as I thrashed beneath him, kicking and clawing, my muffled screams echoing through the sterile room. The syringe glinted under the light, and for a moment, I saw my own terrified reflection in the metal. Please, I gasped when he loosened his hold just enough for me to speak. You don't have to do this. His eyes softened, almost tenderly, and that made it even worse. I'm helping you, he whispered. You've always been lost without me." I jerked my head, knocking his arm away, and the syringe fell to the floor, rolling beneath the bed. He cursed under his breath, and that small distraction gave me a chance to push him back. I stumbled toward the door, slamming my shoulder into it again and again until it burst open. The hallway lights blinded me as I screamed for help. 2 nurses and a security guard came running. Ethan immediately changed his tone. "She's having a psychotic episode," he shouted. "She attacked me." I shook my head, crying. "He tried to drug me. Please, he's not who he says he is." The guard hesitated, caught between us. Ethan's coat was spotless, his demeanor calm, professional. I must have looked like a wild animal barefoot, shaking, eyes wide with panic. "Check the syringe," I screamed. "He dropped it under the bed." But before anyone could move, Ethan said quickly, "It's empty." I was trying to administer a sedative after she lashed out. "Look at her, she's delusional." The nurse turned to me, cautious but gentle. "Claire, we're not here to hurt you. Let's sit down and talk." I felt the walls closing in. No one believed me. He had built this illusion so perfectly that even my truth sounded insane. My knees buckled, but I forced myself to stand. "Please," I whispered. "Just look in his office at home. The red box, the photos, the notes, you'll see." Ethan smiled slightly, the kind of smile that hides a dagger. "There is no red box," he said softly. "You burned it, remember?" My heart stopped. The nurses exchanged nervous glances. I didn't know what was real anymore. Maybe that was his plan all along, to make me doubt my own mind until I became the story he created. They sedated me anyway. I remember the sting in my arm, the world spinning like a carousel of shadows and voices fading into one another. When I woke, everything was quiet. My wrists were strapped lightly to the bed rails, not cruelly, just enough to remind me that I wasn't free. The room was dim, and a clock ticked somewhere behind me, slow and steady. For a few minutes, I just stared at the ceiling, trying to piece together what had happened, what was real. Then I noticed it again, the notepad on the nightstand. My breath caught. It shouldn't have been there. My hands shook as I reached for it, the strap biting into my skin as I pulled it closer. 3 words were written across the page, bold and familiar. "Don't trust him." I froze. The same handwriting. My handwriting. But how? I hadn't written anything since being brought here. I tore the page out and hid it under the blanket just as the door opened. A nurse entered, smiling. "Feeling better?" she asked softly. I nodded, forcing a shaky smile. "Where's Dr. Keller?" I asked. She hesitated. "He won't be seeing you today. He's been suspended pending review." My heart stuttered. "What?" She lowered her voice. "Security checked his office after last night. They found something boxes of surveillance tapes, recordings of patients, even photos. It's all with the police now." I couldn't breathe, so I wasn't... "No," she said, shaking her head. "You weren't imagining it." Tears filled my eyes, hot and uncontrollable. For the first time in weeks, I felt the world tilt back toward reality. She left me alone to rest, and I lay there, clutching the note in my hand, staring at the words I still didn't understand. Why had I written them? Why me? Later that evening, another nurse came in to check my vitals. As she adjusted the monitor, she frowned. "That's strange," she murmured. "The handwriting on your intake format matches the note they found in your room. But Dr. Keller's name is signed in the same ink." A chill ran through me. My heart pounded as I whispered, "What does that mean?" She looked confused. "Maybe he made you write them." But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. Because I could still remember the first time I saw those words weeks before I ever met Ethan Keller. That night, sleep refused to come. I lay in the quiet darkness of the hospital room, the faint hum of machines surrounding me, my mind spinning with every unanswered question. How could I have written those warnings before even knowing him? The thought crawled under my skin, cold and sharp. When the lights dimmed completely, I turned toward the window and saw my reflection staring back, tired, pale, but still alive. That should have been enough comfort. But then something strange caught my eye. The reflection moved a second too late, like a delayed echo. My stomach twisted. I blinked, leaned closer, and watched as my reflection slowly raised its hand before I did. My pulse quickened. "No," I whispered. The air felt heavy, the kind of stillness that hides a presence. The reflection smiled faintly, something I hadn't done. Then, fog formed on the glass from my breath, and as it faded, 3 faint words appeared again, written as if from the other side. "Don't trust him." I stumbled back, knocking over the water cup on the nightstand. The sound drew the nurse rushing in, her face full of concern. "Claire, what happened?" she asked, but my eyes were glued to the window. It was just my reflection again, normal. The words were gone. Maybe the glass had fogged naturally. Maybe my mind was still healing. Or maybe something deeper was warning me. "I just saw something," I whispered. She placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "You've been through trauma. It'll take time to trust your own thoughts again." I nodded, pretending to agree, but inside, I wasn't sure if I ever would. The next morning, I was cleared for release. They said I could start over, new city, new life, therapy, support groups. As I signed the papers, I felt the weight of the pen in my hand, familiar and strange at once. When I finished, I glanced down and froze. The last letter of my signature curved differently, a loop I never used before, just like the one in the warnings. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Maybe Ethan had destroyed evidence. Maybe justice would take time. But something told me the messages hadn't come from madness or manipulation. They had come from somewhere deeper, from the part of me that saw the truth before I was ready to face it. And as I walked out of the hospital doors into the morning light, one thought echoed in my mind: I would never ignore my own handwriting again.